Hi there everybody, Ardir here. Let me explain how the format for the Hearthstone Global Invitational works. So, there are 4 people per team. For example, Europe has 4 people, Americas has 4 people. When Europe plays against Americas, we just make a lobby with all 8 people. We play against each other without knowing who our teammates are. Basically, everybody's forced to control Shift S, which is activating streamer mode, and you cannot see the opponent's names, and you just see hero names. Everybody's forced to record their screen so that they're not cheating, and they have to send the recording to the Chinese officials after the match. And everybody cannot emote and cannot use skins. Some players are gonna occasionally use skins, and they have been warned, but that was probably because of an issue with the account already coming with the skin selected. We play on super accounts, not on our accounts. It's a little bit weird and confusing. Anyways, what you need to know is it's 4v4, and we don't know who our teammates are. So it's gonna be some crazy games played in the style of solo queue. I really like this format for team tournaments because it's always annoying when you have to take a teammate easily and don't damage them too much. So we go no holds bearing against our teammates and against everybody else. You're about to watch some interesting matches, so have a nice one.
Oh, right, we switched screens. I was very confused. Literally, as it picked the character, it changed. But I do want to say, we can talk about Diablo's power level at the moment, but generally, I think the Asia-Pacific region got incredible heroes offered to them this time.
They really did. I mean, Cookie and...
Yeah, it might come up in just a minute. They might just be making sure everything's good to go. I will say, honestly, as well, as we're going to see Tyler just get his token and do the old Jandis swap, so that's he's already off to a good start. I will say, we've not really mentioned Ysera yet, and I do think Ysera is just simple but strong. But it is strong because I do think that dragons, especially almost guaranteeing dragons, is going to be very, very powerful going forward. And we do see elementals, demons, and pirates are out of the game. So I think demons and pirates are not the end of the world, but elementals definitely one of the stronger groups of minions that often make big impacts on lobbies.
You'd just be like, that's Illidan. I'd be like, okay, cool, believe it.
So here for Delonge, how do you like this opening? She did get the token and he's going okay, I would say. Not the best hero power really to work in there, but just seemed to be a fairly aggressive opening. And they're going to beat down this Mutinous pretty easily.
Wrong these days with going Jeef curve or other curves apart from what we call the standard curve, the one where you level up. The one you're taught when you learn. You level up on 4 gold, you level up on 7, you level up on 9. Since they brought in the damage cap, that's not a thing that happens anywhere near as much as it used to. A lot of people stay low for the longest times on a variety of curves that we'll sort of explain over the next few days. Because a lot of the good triples actually just triple into 4 drops. You can afford to stay down low as long as in return you get a load of triples, you get some 4s off those triples, and you catch up as well. So that's what we're seeing here from Simi. Staying quite low. She's actually gone to 2, but she's staying low-ish, trying to get a triple, get a 4 drop, off you go.
A huge minion, but good in the early game of almost guaranteeing killing something when it dies, right? As you can see here, right? Any trade means that you're almost certain to actually kill off 1 minion, and then hopefully for Simisei, she can get through these extra minions with the tokens, and she can. Mutinous takes another hit. Back-to-back pains there for the Mutinous player.
Yeah, I believe that is Sun Glitters on the Mutinous, but I did notice there was a 7-2 Murloc there already. So at some point on Mutinous, if she can land that onto a Divine Shield minion later on, that 7-2 buff would be a massive deal. She could end up with a gigantic Divine Shield down the line. So although she's taking some early damage, she has set up some stuff for the future already.
Next turn, so I imagine that cat is going to be kept hold of just for this one turn, take the extra hit and deal with it. Meanwhile, we check in with Radu on Rafarm, and again, not looking too bad, definitely been cashing on that Rafarm curve, but yet again, do you think he's going to buy everything but the Murloc here and just freeze and level and try and get it next turn? Looks good to me.
Yeah, and I think a large part of his decision here is whether to go for more than a 4. We talk a lot about 4s and 6s in this particular meta, but you can always get a 5. 5s are still good. I imagine Radu will go for the 4, but it'll be interesting to see what he picks up. There's still sort of Mama Bear and Bran and some of the Quillboars lurking around on that 5 drop. So keep an eye out for what Radu chooses to do there.
Yep. This is the Diablo turn as well, so although you can't necessarily see it in this actual game we're focusing on at the moment, you can see all the portraits there on fire, basically. And this means that every other player in the lobby is facing Diablo's board, so Jinbei's board. And if he can, if Diablo gets to live in these fights, then he can gain treasures. And then if Diablo's killed by the opponents, they gain treasures. But that looks like a solid turn to me. This is why you play Diablo. Even though you don't have an active hero power, you do get all these treasures, and then you get to sort of parcel them out and decide when you need a power spike, when you can hold back, when you need to maybe try and survive if you're falling behind, so you pop some treasures and go again. And I think that, you know, Diablo, especially for this Asia Pacific team, even though it was the worst out of the 4 players in terms of character choice, I think it's still not bad in any way, especially if these fights are going to go like that.
Yeah, he went to the top of the leaderboard at the end of that. He got all those treasures. I think he probably beat every single other player, so very, very strong. Those dragons would get huge. But I think Radu is a 4-drop enjoyer. I expect him to take a 4-drop.
Yeah, there's a slight issue with no elementals being in, of course. That one of the groups that has a good 4-drop is elemental, so them being out of the game makes it slightly less appealing. But there are plenty of others that can help you out in that Tavern 4 area here. We are going to see RDU take hold of this one, no problem, and Mutinous going to take another slap this turn, which isn't going to feel too great. Do you think Mutinous starts strong and needs to stay strong, or do you think it is a hero that often might take a few hits early while you mainly focus in stats in a smaller area, and then you build it up later and maybe pop off with, you know, divine shields or anything else that benefits from these high stats?
Yeah, I like Mutinous the later it goes, or sort of mid to late, and then sort of slows down a little bit again right at the end. But you can get some flying starts with it, but I think Sun's playing that for these divine shields, for those mechs, and she'll hope to land some of those buffs on the mechs going forwards. But she is getting a little bit low on health. She'll need to, make sure she'll need to make sure the shops go her way. Like, you can just make sure of that, right? Evelyn here, not really
you can do that.
On his server. yeah, you just ask what you want. Tyler, meanwhile, taking 5s with Jandis. That's the thing you always do these days, because Mama Bear is still a good thing, and when you're playing around with the beasts, that can just win you so much time in the mid game.
You can maybe try and be a bit too fancy with it, right? And you're like, suddenly you look at your board and yeah, you've got some good minions, but also you've got a lot of trash, and you need to be able to sort of transition out of those trash minions into the late game well. And I'm sure, obviously, more than capable of doing so. Look at these fights here.
We caught a glimpse of Evelyn's board as a zero a minute ago, and I want to mention it quickly because she might not be around that much longer. Yes, she was hitting a triple, but she didn't have a promo Drake or a Pyro Spawn or a Taragoza on that board that I could see, at least in the glimpse we got.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, this is the fabled bad Ysera start that we were talking about.
Yeah, you normally need... honestly, I feel like you just need the two, like the promo and the Taragosa, like early, right, to feel good. Once you've got those, you can build on it, and it gets very, very strong indeed. But the odd game when you do whiff a little bit, it does hurt. And Gasp from Lorinda. What do you think RDU's looking for here? Is it just straight? Okay, just went straight for the Omega Buster.
Yeah, I mean, he just took a 6, see what he got. There's an Omega Buster. He's strong enough that he can mess around for a couple of turns trying to set that board up. He's on 36 health. He's got 2 16-3s on the board. They will stop a lot of damage coming in, even if he does start to lose a fight or two. And that means that he can start working on that. The board, everybody's lost to a million times. Omega Busters with loads of ways to respawn them and get them back and put them on other minions. He hasn't got the mechs, but that's not the biggest issue when he has a reasonable board to back it up. He's gone very aggressive. It suits his style. He's going to be in a great spot in this lobby.
And there's Evelyn getting a Taragosa there, so she does have to freeze it, so it will be a little bit delayed. This is the fair moment here for her, because although, okay, Taragosa's there, there's still no promo, and she's on 14 health, right? That's 1 to 2 losses and you're just done for game one or lobby one already, which has got to feel bad. But you do get games like this sometimes where you just don't hit what you need to hit, and especially when we're looking at, you can see there Diablo, I think Jinbei's right on Diablo, RDU on Rafarm looking great, Cookie as well doing really good up there. So a little bit unfortunate, but of course this is Battlegrounds. This is what happens. You have 8 players, but very quickly you get down to that 4 and 3 left over. Pretty quick indeed.
Yeah, and where the great players shine, something we need to look out for over the next few days, is not winning the lobbies. Anybody at any level can win a lobby if they get the right stuff. It's when you get those 3rd places that should have been a 7th place.
Right.
Yeah, you start off, Bob just doesn't want to behave, he doesn't give you what you want. But by realising you're getting behind and sort of putting together a tempo board rather than a board with any real cohesion, you can often just claw your way up the leaderboard to a place you don't belong and pick up a lot of extra points. As you see Evelyn there, in fact everybody there by the look of it, just destroying Diablo. This is where the beginning of the end for Diablo when it starts losing those pit fights.
Yeah, well this is the Diablo turn now, right? So that was just a normal face into Diablo. This, I believe, is the Diablo turn. Which is where everyone's going to face Diablo. But I do agree, I think that was a big deal. Like Evelyn as well got the win, so has retained that 14 health as a huge deal there, not even going down to an almost guaranteed, like, oh, if I take 1 hit from anything, I die, which is something you can still avoid at 14 health.
Sun's hit didn't go in the best place, but it's gone okay. It didn't go on to the Divine Shield minion, but at least it's gone somewhere that the minion wants to be sticking around. So not disaster, but she does need one of these big mutinous eats to go onto a big minion, and she is down to 7, and her board it's good for the future, but it's not necessarily huge right now. Sun could be in trouble here. Look at RDU's board.
It's kind of rough.
He's getting all the bits and pieces.
Yeah, even just a couple of mechs now. He did get hold of the 3-2, got the egg as well. I believe he did have Leaper and the Micro Machine earlier on, so...
He's looking very awake, Raven, for a person who is still streaming at like 7 p.m, so sort of 6 or 7 hours ago.
I think this is what happens when you give RDU a tournament to play in, honestly, especially one like this, especially Battlegrounds, where there aren't quite as many big Battleground tournaments, of course. And I think this is, RDU... talk about his streaming all we want, but he is a true competitor, and if there's something to win, he will definitely try and make that happen.
Yeah, he has put the work in, definitely. He said himself, not just streaming, but watching a lot of the other top players playing as well, just to see if there's things that he may have missed, things that he can build on. And he is constantly trying to improve. Very hard on himself, which is honestly one of the best ways to be. If you're like that, if you're naturally built that way, that's how you learn.
Checking out here, of course, this is the Diablo turn, and it looks like Diablo is stomping at least Evelyn and Sun, and this looks grim indeed, as Sun is going to go out, and we're going to quickly find out. Oh, only 10 there. Okay, so Evelyn did enough. The last turn or so has been a big turnaround for her, because you mentioned it, right? When you can convert a bad game into an okay outcome, that's still a victory in itself.
Yes, absolutely. It looked like she was going to have a disaster, but she is still hanging in there. Just have a quick look at this Tyler board. Obviously on Jandis now, the fruits of the early 5 drops starting to pay off.
Not sure. Like, for me as well, this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, this is looking okay for Tyler, but not super strong. This looks like this maybe should, or in a perfect world, should have happened a couple of turns beforehand, right? Like with the Divine Shields and the Gem generation. I feel like this is maybe a little bit too slow, especially as he's about to go into RDU on Rafarm.
I feel I saw a ground shaker, and that makes everything you just said wouldn't be correct. But if there isn't a ground shaker, everything you just said is right. Because he'll get those gems and be able to pump up all these Divine Shields every turn. I've just got a feeling there's a ground shaker underneath his image there.
Wouldn't there already be like the 2-5 already been sold by now? Then
That's what's concerning me. Yeah.
Yeah, like sell the Whelp Smuggler, buy the 4/4 to buff a dragon, sell that, and then get Ground Shaker go sort of thing. Like,
There it
no,
is.
is there? Okay, he is going to do the turn I mentioned. I was just a little bit confused, but yeah, he's just taking his time. This is what good Battlegrounds players look like, whereas I have everything locked in like 10 seconds and then complain about the turns taking too long when really I'm just making bad decisions quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the more things you sell off at the start of your turn, the less chance you have of rolling. If you roll 2 more of them in your next shop, you've missed a triple. So leaving everything until the last second, not physical time, but until the last moment you have to sell it to get the gold, is a good way forwards. But he is into this rough arm. These look like the top 2 in the lobby to me, the way it's shaping up. So let's have a look who's in the front at this point. Look at the stats there. It looks like Tyler's 81% for this one.
Yeah, it looks to be the case, doesn't it? It does look strong though, right? It's just these Divine Shields and the reoccurring Divine Shields as well. He's just going to add so much extra juice to this, especially if this next hit can go his way, which it does. Gives the Mechroll more Divine Shield back, and yeah, tons of gems. The only thing to be aware of now, and what I have found difficult with these kind of gem splitter boards, is holding minions is kind of strange, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah, you want to hold minions for triples, but especially with a Ground Shaker, that is a lot of extra damage you miss by basically not having enough hand space for all the gems you can potentially get on any given turn.
DeLonghi sporting what I call the tank build, which is a build I end up in often where Bob hasn't given what you want, but you've got a tank. So
yeah, tank and some stuff.
Yeah, tank a few things and try and creep up the leaderboard. You don't take that much damage when you're shooting down your opponent's minions with a tank, but that will expire soon. People are getting strong, and the tank cannot hold everybody off forever.
It's kind of interesting, right? Because as you mentioned earlier, I think this comp definitely is a can I top 4, maybe top 3 with this, especially because it's playing a Nguyen, which means that any given turn, a hero power can dramatically change the way the game's going to go. You look at the Reno hero power, you look at, the ice block, for example, could be a huge deal. So you can never really count Nguyen out. So I think this is a good strategy to at least hang on and buy enough time to see if this hero power is going to dig you out of a rough spot.
You know what else is a big deal? Is that the top 4 on that leaderboard are all APAC. The bottom 4 are all Europe.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's massive. Remember, this is a team
yeah.
tournament over many, many different events, not just the Battlegrounds. It's mercenaries and stuff as well. These points go towards your region's score in the match over the next few hours. And, okay, they play 3 lobbies of Battlegrounds, but this is not a good start for Europe at all. We need, we, being the European in this particular conversation right now, would need Radu to get back up there, I think, the way things are panning out.
And honestly, I would have even guessed, and the game is not this simple, but as we mentioned right at the beginning on the hero choice, the APAC team just got offered insane heroes, like all top of the sort of power curve, right? So this is not really a surprise if you had to guess an outcome, but these drops from Yunjoy,
no,
jeez.
She's doing Europe a favour here. She doesn't know it, though. She's got to do her best to win the lobby. It's going to be a theme of the week. But she has just put out her teammate, who was doing pretty well. And Radu putting Cookie just down to 1 health, which is Simi, right? So Simi actually, by that virtue of that 1 health, is going to get a point extra than you enjoy. You got that's a good start.
Yeah, it's something at least. Tyler here. Now, again, just working his way around how to buff this board. It does get a little bit, I think, difficult to work out exactly how to build up the board, especially if you kind of committed on these 2 spaces being the Ground Shaker and the Gem Splitter. Because at some point, that has to not be good enough, right? Like, that probably won't end the lobby if you don't triple them early enough. So it's difficult to be able to decide when do I pull one away, which one do you pull away. Of course, Ground Shaker will add more overall attack and stats, but it can only do that if you have gems. So it's a very, very difficult choice. And I think late game transitions are what interests me the most about this game mode. And what I think are by far the most difficult things to get a hold of is how you transition from a decent comp late game to a winning comp.
Yeah, something he might try and do, and yeah, transitions aren't necessarily my strength, but I'm alright at them. Is he might try to make this Mecharul really large, find the Necrolite and put all the gems onto it, and then line up all the divine shields, front load all the divine shields, so that you just can't get through the Mecharul because it keeps getting divine shield back and hitting for a million each time. That might be what he's looking to do here.
It's a strategy that is very funny for the player who has it and very unfunny for the player who doesn't. Because I've just seen that divine shield refresh so many times when it's got taunt. It's so great.
Yeah, and so I think he's looking for a way to give that taunt. Now there's obviously multiple ways to do that. But also this fight's not going that great for him.
It also looks like Jinbei is going out. RDU might have recovered here with the exact 7 against Jinbei, which means that, you know, even though he looked really strong on Diablo, I think that is one of the problems with Diablo. It looks great if you win the first round and get loads of treasures, but they're one use, right? Like, and then they go away and you don't effectively have a hero power, right? So I think timing those is difficult, and I do think Diablo drops off late game.
And looking at Simi/Noffy there, just creeping up another place. I think she survived this round from what I saw on Jinbei's cam there. I think she's got up to 4th place with that 1 health. With, you know, she hasn't been able to get a build together at all. And just, yeah, there she goes, sneaking into 4th place. Extra point each time she limps up the ladder like that. And the build's beginning to take shape. She's got the Tarragosas kind of sorted. A bit late, but she's also got the Nadina. She might actually be fine here.
Yeah, it's a huge pickup, and I think it was, depending on how Simi finishes this, I think already good start, right? Get that top 4. But for me, that Tarragosa really, that first one she picked up was about as late as you could ever push it, as obviously seen by this 1 health that she's got. So, but as long as you've got 1 health, you're not out. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, and she has actually got now sort of all the cards you want assembled for this dragon build. They're a lot smaller than you would like at this stage, just because, like you say, that Tarragosa was probably a turn later than you can ever have it for most people, right?
Right.
But she has found a way to cling in there, and this build's taking shape. The trouble is, the lobby's pretty strong right now. We saw that with earlier on, and the Jandis both going really well. And you can't judge a Sneed by its cover, right? We don't know how much nonsense is under all with these death rattles.
Yeah. I will say, though, it's kind of lined up well, right? Where both European players are playing versus the 2 Asia-Pacific players. So at least they're not going to knock each other out this turn. For the 2 low health players, I mean. So we have Simi versus Tyler. And then we have Yunjoy versus RDU, of course. So at least for their sake, one of them has a chance at sticking around.
Yeah, both RDU and Tyler got off to monstrous looking starts, and that's starting to show up a little bit now.
I'll say though, Yunjoy has a lot of health, right, to play around with. She can take a few hits, or at least 1 hit, and still feel comfortable. And as you mentioned, just look at all these death rattles go on the right side there. And it's just, it looks endless, especially when you're death rattling into beasts with a mama bear on the board, right? That's like the sort of thing you're after if you're going to play beasts with this character.
I would have known this was RDU, even if I didn't know it was RDU. The parrots at the front, what's the... Oh, that hit, yeah, on the left.
So many death rattles. Yeah, looks like Simi's going to take out Tyler.
Yep, that's a massive deal for Europe. And it also looks like RDU is going to take out Yunjoy, which is another massive deal for Europe. So they're going to most likely finish 1st, 2nd, 7th, and 8th, which would actually give them, because of winning the lobby, that 1 extra point.
That's kind of funny, isn't it? Why that 1 point is important. We mentioned at the start of the day, if you finish 1st, you get 9 points. If you finish 2nd, you're on 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So yeah, this is a big deal. And honestly, this is why I enjoy this specific format for Battlegrounds. It's been my favorite so far. Is yes, they're 2 teams of 4. Yes, they add their sort of finishes together as a team. But because they don't know who's who, they're just playing a nice game of Battlegrounds and trying to finish as high as possible. And then we've seen now what looked like a strong and almost guaranteed, like, strong finish for APAC in this lobby. the combination of Simi and RDU have like really recovered this for EU this game. So it's a huge start and a great recovery considering Simi's been on 1 health for 4 turns now, I think?
Yeah, a long time. The Diablo, even the Nguyen were looking like they were going to finish above her. Just keeping an eye on this Ghoul that's gone. Okay.
Good job. You kept an eye on it and you lost it. I'm not putting you as a lookout if we ever do any kind of heist.
Yeah. Watch out, lads. The police are already here.
Yep, you're already cuffed.
It really is. It absolutely is, joking aside. But it is interesting how different players approach setting up, from a distance. And RDU, one of his preferred ways is to go for the death rattle with the bird synergy. Which, again, obviously is a sensible thing to do. It's not just him that does it. It's just a very common way that he likes to set up.
Pretty interesting matchup here for RDU as well, because he's, I think, guaranteed, 100% guaranteed the win pretty much. It does mean that because he's against a Ghost that has mechs, like, for example, that macro you can see on board, that maybe if he can get the, grab a minion from your opponent's warband, like, that's a big deal, right? You want to be playing against opponents with similar lineups, and because this was such a free win, it has that added extra little benefit of maybe you get something even more out of this.
So we're keeping an eye on Yunjoy because she's looking like she's got a chance of a 12% scam, but it is just starting to drift away the last few hits.
Oh my! Even though I wasn't even saying that because of the minion quality, it's just always shocking to see so many minions come out of one death rattle. It's so ridiculous. She survives. But 10, she's in.
Yep. 66% chance of dying there, but she does get to have a go against RDU. But like you were describing, he has had that whole turn to gather this golden baron, just to slowly but surely strengthen this build even more.
Yeah, it looks like this one is likely to be a team kill. Either way, honestly, I think both players are capable of taking out the other one. I think RDU is obviously favoured looking at just how this has gone and what his board looks like. But again, I think if this means that it's likely we're going to see APAC and EU have first and second spot in this specific lobby.
Yeah, it could be first and third, because if Simi loses this, then Yunjoy will sneak into second. She is stronger than the Ghost, I believe, although it may still depend on Sneed's behaviour itself.
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant in general, right? Like, because these two are playing each other, it means that it's likely that Yunjoy's going to win, so she'll get second place.
But it's a massive, massive comeback, right? It looked like Europe could well finish sort of 8th, 7th, 6th at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Simi's done her part massively here, just clawing in there to get these extra points. Again, it's 4 or 5 points, which is a huge amount. It's like having an extra player almost.
And this is the sheer power of Sneeds, right? Like, this board itself looks pitiful when you look at this board from Yunjoy.
Right.
At this point in a game, it looks very, very weak, but all of those death rattles just kicking out more and more minions. It's just such a big deal. And it's why Sneed's so difficult to even just play into or have any kind of estimate on how the matchup's going to go, because you just don't know what's going to pop out of these death rattles.
And to be fair, we've seen it so many times, we know how it works, but RDU's board, if you're not a sort of regular Battlegrounds player, also starts off looking quite small. It's just that all of these
and then this happens.
Do this. Yeah, but we've seen this so many times, we know this is going to happen. Although this is actually just complete nonsense. Look at this board.
Yeah. And the second macro as well is just such a big deal. Why is there 146 Wally on the board? Like, that's just so crazy, isn't it? And that means Simi's going to be well and truly dead that turn. But still, as we mentioned, she was on 1 health for many, many turns this game and brought it back from what looked like a potential 8th place for her, all the way back up to finishing 3rd in Lobby 1, which is a great result, honestly.
Yeah, and
Is Yunjoy going to die to the Ghost? Okay, that's very funny. And that means RDU's going to take lobby number 1. And we're never going to hear the end of it, Narinder. And that's going to be a talking point on this stream, no doubt.
The world now needs 2 8s from Radu, or that's it for everybody.
To have any kind of faith left in the world.